Hello and welcome. This is going to be just a general reading for the month of February 2023. Alright, we're going to leave all those in reverse, I guess that's it. We have Morgan Le Fay, Witch of Ages on top. That was on top when I started as well. This is going to be a month of seeing and looking at things that you do or do not want to look at. Some of these things you need to look at but don't want to. Some of these things you've wanted to uncover for a very long time. Some of these things you may not know that you need to look at these things. Okay? And whether you want to look at these things, recognize these things, accept these things, whether it's about something in your life, about yourself, whatever it is, even if it scares you to look at it, you have to. Because, especially with Arthur coming out in reverse, okay, this is self-leadership, how you see yourself, and how you see yourself reflects how you think other people see you, okay? So this is not something that you want in reverse. But it is right now. And you're going to change it this month, and that's really good. Osiris also came out in reverse. So, by changing the way that you see yourself, you're going to change the way that you view what is currently what you're currently pulling in your life. Okay, so responsibilities, your work, your relationships, your family, your friends, all of these things are going to be viewed through a new scope. But the only way you can change that scope is by turning this into this. Okay? And just because the words commitment and responsibility scare you, they're not a bad thing. Okay? And I think maybe your perception of certain things has a negative alteration because of maybe you fear failure, maybe you've messed up so many times that you don't even want to try again, which is understandable, but then you're just going to stay stagnant. And this, your self-leadership, your self-empowerment, your self-motivation, your solar plexus is probably something you want to work on. All of that is going to stay stagnant. And stagnant is not healthy. You know, for things to slow down and speed up over time is normal. You know, you go through phases, but for things to completely be still and for you to just not move anywhere in any category of your life is not a healthy thing. Okay, this also came out in reverse, but once that self-leadership and self-empowerment and the way you see yourself changes, this is going to be the way it is now. It's like this right now in your life. But this month, as you just kind of shake up and shake out whatever you don't need, this is going to switch to this. And this is going to fill in the boxes that you're going to dump out, okay? And that's a good thing. It's going to be a lot of renewing. it's sort of like getting rid of old furniture because you got new ones, but you have to get rid of the old first before you can pick out the new one. Sort of, if that makes any sense. I'm gonna read the book for this one, but we also have Vanth on top, Hades underneath of that. You know, speaking of perception, I always had a different outlook on Hades. He got fooled into being leader of the underworld by his siblings. So, you know, I always kind of almost felt bad for him, sort of. And I never really reached this perception until I was a little bit older. And then, you know, he kidnapped Persephone, which is God, who was her mom? Her mom was like the one who like made the crops bloom and everything, and because Persephone ate the 6 pomegranate seeds, she had to stay in the underworld for 6 months, and that's why there's winter. But like, he was lonely. He wanted happiness. And he thought that by bringing her to the underworld, it would make the underworld a happy place. And I never really saw him as that bad of a god. And I also feel like maybe using the energy of Hades, maybe even doing research on him and just using the energy of him, you might be able to gain a different perception. Because despite where he was at, you know, he was very alone and he wanted to make his place a happier place. You know, I always struggle with this one because they never. Oh, there we go. Caretaker of the Lost. That's who Vanth is. The caretaker of the lost, Vanth guides the dead who become sidetracked or misled to their proper places, an agent of Hades' mercy. She helps them recall that which they most need to know about themselves, to continue on in the afterlife. Benevolent and dedicated, Vanth provides that which is most needed, at that point where it is most needed. She inspires us to trust those we depend on, and that the tools which will aid us will be there, or will be easily found at the critical moment. It is important to rest, to breathe, and not to give in to panic and fear. So, yeah. I guess I just never really saw Hades as a bad omen. That's just me. But you're welcome to take it as it comes to you. Trusting your intuition. And part of that memory could be maybe remembering how your guides communicate with you. You know, some people struggle with that, and it could just be something that needs a little bit of critiquing, and it could be on both ends, you know? Just finding a thorough, steady way for communication is very, very important. Not just in day-to-day life, but in spirituality as well, you know? And 42. Others see it, you don't. If you have drawn this sigil, other people see you or see the situation you are in much better than you currently see yourself or the situation. In this scenario, other people clearly see what is in your blind spot because it is not a blind spot for them. This sigil is straightforward. There is a time not to follow the counsel of other people's perspectives and instead favor your own. This is not that moment. Act proactively to get their perspectives, or listen to the ones already being shared. You will most likely find that in this scenario, most other people have reached a kind of consensus about the situation. Most of them, if not all of them, agree. The consensus can be very wrong, but this time it is very right. Seek the counsel of those who you have experienced to be objective minded. Seek the counsel of those who live their life in the practice of consciousness instead of those who are ruled by what is in their subconscious. That being said, in this scenario, almost everyone, no matter how conscious they are, can see what you do not see. Don't feel ashamed that you cannot see what is in your blind spot when everyone else can. This is the case for all of us. It is always easier for people to see things about us and about situations that we are identified with. It is easier for someone to be objective and even walk away from the table when they have no skin in the game, so to speak. Do not let this shame prevent you from accepting their opinion. Besides, in a universe where all is one, seeking counsel from others is simply seeking counsel from yourself. It is the act of seeking counsel from parts of yourself that can see the current situation more clearly than can be the part that you are currently identified with, the you that you call by your name. $75. Incompatibility. If you have drawn the sigil, incompatibility is present and you are not seeing or acknowledging it. This could be incompatibility with anything, such as another person, a living environment, a health or spiritual practice, a group, or a job. You are being called to stop trying to force a square peg into a round hole and accept this incompatibility so you can allow yourself or someone else to gravitate to what is compatible instead of continuing to try to change what will not change. Incompatibility is the condition of two things being so different in nature and so uncomplementary in that difference that they are incapable of coexisting harmoniously. It is tempting to assume that incompatibility is simply about having differences, but what incompatibility is really about is putting people with these non-harmonious differences in roles or positions with each other that require there to be either no difference or that require a difference that is non-harmonious in nature to be harmonious. When incompatibility is present in a relationship, it is usually very difficult for people to admit to it, to change the nature of their relationship, to change their roles in each other's lives, or to end the relationship. We want everything to work out so badly because we can't face the reality of the incompatibility because of what it would mean to us. But due to this, we destroy the relationship. We try to make the other person compatible with us by making them wrong or bad for their difference, which creates shame in them. And they most likely will do the same to us. After a while, the emotional condition of the relationship itself is shame and resentment towards each other because of it. Often, when we make the other person wrong for their difference, we come up with a reason why they are wrong for it and try then to heal them out of that difference or try to change it so that it doesn't exist. This never works because if you try, the message conveyed by approaching them in this manner will be, you need to be fixed because something is wrong with you. They will feel totally unloved by you and unaccepted and unwanted as they are. There is a time when people, things, or circumstances come into our life specifically so that we will change and morph into different healthier, and more expanded versions of ourselves. The pain we feel in changing so as to align with those people, things, or circumstances is the natural result of growth. There are other times when the pain we feel in changing to align with people, things, and circumstances is not the pain of growth, but the pain of denying who we really are and trying to make ourselves into something that we are not. If you have drawn this sigil, this is one of those times that the pain does not mean positive growth. It means either you are resisting your true self or someone else's true self, or someone else is resisting your true self or their own. For anything to improve, you need to own up to the incompatibility and stop forcing yourself or anyone else sideways. Gravitate and let them gravitate towards something that is truly compatible. Self-preservation disguised as self-sabotage. If you have drawn this sigil, you or someone in the situation is actively engaging in self-sabotage, but you and potentially they are unaware of that the part of you or them that is doing the sabotaging is convinced it is preserving you or them. Unless you fully understand the perspectives and motives of this part that is doing the sabotaging with understanding and compassion, you will stay stuck relative to the situation. Here are some examples of self-sabotage, which we will develop in a moment. Procrastination, holding on to addictions, doing things that push someone away while professing that we want a relationship to work. Self-sabotage is essentially thoughts, words, and actions that are self-defeating. They work against you when it comes to attaining something that you want. Consciousness can and does split itself. This means that even though we call ourselves by one name and therefore identify ourselves as being one unified thing, the reality is that we are more of an amalgamation of fragmented parts ourselves. We are more like a mosaic or stained glass window. Our degree of internal suffering is about the degree of harmony, or lack thereof, between these internal selves. If you are experiencing self-sabotage, it is because not all of your internal selves or parts agree with your conscious desires. One or more of them is resisting or opposing the parts that contain your conscious desires. If any of your internal parts or selves is resisting or opposing your desires, or if any of them is hurting other parts of you in any way, it is because they think it is in your best interest for them to do so. In other words, they believe they are saving your life by not going along with the plan. For this reason, you cannot say that they are against you, they just don't agree with the rest of you about how to be for you. I'm going to go ahead and read 27 too. The bubble. If you have drawn this sigil, you are stuck in a bubble in the current perspective. You are seeing only the truth of your perspective. As hard as it may be to accept, you are operating from a narcissistic viewpoint. Intimacy can be broken down into the three-word phrase, into me see. First, the foremost intimacy is to see into one another so as to deeply connect. But intimacy goes beyond just seeing someone. Intimacy is seeing into, feeling into, listening into, perceiving and understanding someone. To have genuine intimacy with someone, we have to be willing to commit to becoming an expert on them. It is to completely see their perspectives. It is for them to completely see ours. It is tempting to think that a person can do without intimacy. The truth is, they can't. Without intimacy, we do not develop a sense of ourselves or a sense of our existence. We begin to feel as if we exist in a parallel reality. It is this parallel reality that is so deeply isolating and that causes us to feel like we are alone no matter how many people might be around us. We are at risk of developing a bubble, which is a parallel reality. Anytime we do not experience people seeing us, feeling us, hearing us, or understanding us, we also risk developing a bubble anytime we refuse to see, feel, hear, or understand other people. It is in the developing of genuine connection that we can tear down the separation between these realities so that these realities can merge. One reality must begin to account for the other, and vice versa. Denial is like a veil that serves to divide two realities. It is within our capacity to accommodate polarities that our consciousness will find true progression. If you have drawn this sigil in this circumstance, you will not be able to find any improvement until you expand wide enough to be able to accommodate other people's perspectives and realities. This means expanding wide enough to accommodate extremes and contradictions. But doing so is what enables us to see these contradictions and polarities as complementary. I speak English, I swear. And the moment that we acknowledge a contradictory truth or state of being and expand wide enough to be able to hold both, we have disidentified with both extremes. We have ceased to become someone who can only hold one or the other reality and become someone who can hold both. By holding both instead of aspects of ourself being separated by them, we have created a state of integration or wholeness within our being. We can then find the unifying factor between polarized perspectives. Time to get out of your limited and finite identity, as well as your limited and finite way of seeing things. Time to get out of your bubble. So you have heart chakra on top. We also have surrender. So surrendering just this denial that you have, whether it's about yourself or another situation. I think part of it is like maybe you're justifying it, you know? You keep having these justifications of like why to keep going on this pathway that you're on. And at a certain point, it's not really a justification, it's an excuse, you know? And that excuse helps shield you from the pain that you think you're going to experience. But even if it is that painful, it's only going to be for a little while, because you're going to gain so much more by just allowing yourself to drift to wherever it is you're supposed to be. Because at this point, you're just fighting a current. This is going to push for a lot of upgrades. So you're going to be sent a lot of information, a lot of help, a lot of comfort. Because remember, anything and everything that you could possibly need for this transition and anything else in your future is going to be protected and provided. Okay? Which means that this is going to change to this. Self-focus also came out. I think part of this having excuses thing is you haven't been able to focus on yourself, what makes you happy, and what will put you in a better situation. So by cutting off the dead limbs, so to speak, you're going to be able to put yourself first. And that's what you deserve. So we have I surrender it all. And I pray before I pay. Hopefully that helped, and hopefully you have a wonderful February.